Hello, everyone. Welcome to Fearless Fempreneur Show. So, as you know, every week we interview amazing women entrepreneurs as they share with us what is it like to run their business, also their fearless stories and their adventures in running and starting up their own business. Today is going to be a little bit special because this session is dedicated for you who are trying and starting out your first business. And maybe you don't know what you need to do to register your business in Singapore. So we are partnering today with Osome. They are an amazing corporate secretarial service company. They do their work based on technology, and both my companies are using Osome for their service. All right. So today we have with us Anna Nari. Let me add her to the stream. So there she is. Anna, hi. How are you doing?
Hi, Huda. I've been amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
You're most welcome. So let me introduce Anna to the stage right now. So Anna, she is a sales acceleration specialist, which is a very unique role as it is. She's been working for Awesome for since 2018, right, Anna?
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, wow. So since 2018, she's been contributing and she has had the privilege of engaging and advising numerous entrepreneurs and business owners regarding incorporation, setting up your company, as well as some corporate secretarial and even compliance matters. She has done and get herself involved with so many workshops as well as seminars just with this same mission to help as many entrepreneurs set up their business as possible. Her extensive experience has led her to great reviews from her clients, and she's very passionate in helping and connecting entrepreneurs to solutions. So, without further ado, let us welcome Anna. She will be sharing with us a little bit about why incorporating in Singapore is important and how you can do it. Over to you, Anna.
Thank you, Hamid. Sorry, Huda Hamid. This
Yes.
is amazing. It's a very, really, really nice introduction. And thank you, everybody, of course, for taking the time to be with me today. I hope everyone's having a fantastic evening so far. Again, my name is Anna Nari. I am the Sales Acceleration Specialist at Osome. Being in this industry for 6 years, my passion to actually help entrepreneurs never ceases to end. And with my position at Osome, it does allow me to deep dive both in the operational and the client's growth. So, with that, in today's session, I will be going through a crash course on the how to's and the whys of registering a company here in Singapore. We'll have like a Q&A session at the end. So, of course, do not hesitate to shoot me a question.
All
And
right. So, I'm going to pull out their slides first to check if everything's okay. All
mhm,
right. So, let's go on. All right.
all good.
Okay. All good.
All right. So going ahead to the slides, this is me again. And I want to do, of course, like a quick introduction of Osome. We are a one-stop solution for corporate service providers and fully digitalized service. This includes incorporation, corporate secretary, accounting, taxation, visa solutions for all clients that open and manage their companies here in Singapore, Hong Kong, and the UK. So we are pretty much a global brand as well. Sorry, let me just pull out full screen. Right. And of course, with you may ask, like, why Singapore? I mean, there are a lot of jurisdictions where you can set up your company in, but why Singapore? And I'm here to give you really, really good insights. First and foremost, it is one of the most competitive economy here in the world, and we are consistently top list in ease of doing business. Just a little quick FYI as well. We have been, fighting very closely with Hong Kong for the longest time, and only last year, due to the pandemic, New Zealand actually became first, and Singapore does maintain second place. So we are, we're maintaining. And besides that, we also practice common law. We are English speaking, so a lot of different entrepreneurs are attracted in setting up a company in Singapore, seeing that it is an Asian hub. Last but not definitely the least, there are a lot of grants that the government are giving out, and this is because of the fact that the government, Singapore government, does encourage a lot of entrepreneurs to set up their companies, and besides that, there are tax exemption schemes for startups and industry specific tax exemptions. Moving on, we have a really attractive Singapore tax system. um, First and foremost, it is a flat rate of 17% of corporate tax rate. That is definitely much more than the capped personal tax rate. And also the fact that it is 0% capital gains tax and 0% tax on dividends. So it's really attractive. I'm not even kidding. A lot of foreigners really set up, really look into setting up a company in Singapore just for the reasons of the corporate tax schemes that we have. Apart from that, like I mentioned earlier moments ago, we have a lot of exemption schemes. We have partial tax exemption schemes together with rebates that that IRS actually gives out to newly incorporated companies, and as well as indefinitely. On to the next slide. This would actually give you an overview of how much you're actually paying for for your tax. So it is on based on chargeable income of the company, and there are a few conditions, of course, for you to meet. Usually, when a company is I would say of setting up a company like a branch office, generally such entities would already have like a parent company pumping in money for the subsidiaries. In such scenarios, such companies wouldn't need like much support from from the government. But other than that, if your company, when you're setting up a new company, generally you would be given really attractive exemption schemes, and one of my favorite is actually the startup tax exemption scheme. This means that instead of paying 17% of your income, you're actually paying only 4.25%, and that is only for the first 100,000. So if you earn more than 100,000, you actually get on top of that, you get like a 50% exemption, and that is about 8.5% of tax rate. So you're literally only paying 8.5% of your income. And we have the partial tax exemption schemes. This generally comes after startup tax exemption scheme. And the best part is it runs indefinitely until the next budgeting announcement. But it has been going on for a couple of years, and generally you would still be at the end of the day paying less tax than instead of the 17% corporate tax rate. Moving on to the next slide, there are certain, I would say, not only locals that are looking to set up their company in Singapore. Of course, as a foreigner, you may be looking to set up a company in Singapore together with relocating in Singapore. One of the bigger reasons why foreigners prefer to not only set up their company in Singapore but also move into Singapore is due to the fact that, again, our personal tax rate is pretty much attractive as compared to a lot of different countries. We're very thankful to be here. But of course, there are certain passes that is more appropriate for a entrepreneur, and some not really appropriate. So really, two, I would say, commonly applied passport would sorry work visa would be employment pass and entre pass. The employment pass have certain criteria for you to meet in order for you to be able to even apply for the employment pass. Not saying that you cannot apply for an employment pass, but there are just certain conditions for you to meet. One of the most easiest conditions, of course, to ensure that you are getting the required salary, you have a good education, and the fact that you do need to pump in a couple of thousands into the corporate bank account. This is, of course, to ensure that the company is able to pay you as a as an employee, for a couple of years, for a couple of months. And there are certain easier way for someone to be able to get an employment pass, apart from the fact that just certain conditions like having a higher salary, having a capital injected into the corporate bank account, but also the fact that if you are invited by a company, it's generally shorter. when when you have somebody to kind of sponsor you, have a company to sponsor you. But if you are setting up a company and then applying for an employment pass, then 3 to 6 months, because to generally it's also to consider the whole setup process, the whole bank account opening process, the injection, and the whole pretty much just the setup itself before the employment pass application occurs. That aside, Singapore also has an entrepass. Entrepass is a little bit more exclusive. It's generally given to foreigners that are moving into Singapore on three different categories. One is called the entrepreneur, one is an innovator, and the other is an investor. The reason why I say it is generally more a exclusive pass is because in these three categories you do have to have an intensive, or sorry, extensive experience in setting up a company, funding VCs, and selling your company as a seed round, and as well as being an innovator, you do need to have like certain background in order for you to be categorized as an innovator, and as an investor, you do need to have like a track record. Moving on, we we then go into details in terms of business entities. What are the different types of companies here in Singapore? So, besides a sole proprietor, Singapore also has different types of companies or entities. You just specified sole proprietor. There is partnership. There is limited partnership, limited liability partnership, and PTE Ltd, which is short for private limited. I'll go into details in terms of the theory and the pros and cons.
Yeah, so Anna, just before you carry on, so I think right before we started this live session, I was sharing with you about how there's this common misconception that in Singapore the best way for you to get started is to register a business as a sole proprietorship. So for those of you who are tuning in, I hope this next segment that Anna is going to shed some light on that matter, and to share with you that sole proprietorship is not the only way to go. There are so many other options available out there for you. So I hope you take down notes and really just use this session to absorb the knowledge as much as you can. And feel free to ask any questions that you have, and we will address it together at the end of this presentation that Anna has. All right, over back to you, Anna.
Thank you. Yes, I remember. So, yes, it is a big misconception as well. I just want to highlight as that, we've been experiencing a lot of clients, a lot of leads, reaching out to us, asking, I want to set up a sole proprietorship. We actually kind of recommend a different approach. This is due to the fact of basically these two pros and cons. First and foremost, why a sole proprietor would work for you is, of course, you have the full control of the business. It is generally easier to set up. You just have to log into BizFile, which is the official government portal of ACRA. All of the profits are yours. There isn't much compliance requirement for you to kind of take note on a yearly basis, and it is very easy to seize the business. For cons, it is a separate legal entity. There is no tax exemptions or incentives, no government grants, and it does have a higher tax rate. Personal tax. And on this note, let me just run through the theory first, and I'll go through in more details in terms of my personal consultation. I would say advice to entrepreneurs looking to set up a company and looking at sole proprietorship. So I'll go into details in a bit. And then we also have partnership and limited partnership. This means instead of sole proprietorship, it's more than one person. Similarly to a sole proprietorship, it has lesser compliance regulations. It's easier to set up. It's easy to also close the company, and it's relatively cheaper as well. Correct. And cons, or basically the negative side of a partnership or limited partnership, is that taxation is based on the partner's individual tax rate. So it's still the same theory in which that very similar to a sole proprietorship. It's not based on corporate tax. You would be taxed personally as individual tax. And essentially, the partners are considered a single legal entity. By that, it means that it is not separate from the company. So anything happens to the entity, the partners would be liable. And yes, it does require a high degree of trust because there isn't much like resolutions, there isn't much at meetings that it can make things official in terms of the regulation side. For example, if you like to kind of set up a corporate bank account, um, any one of your partners can actually go into the corporate bank to the bank and say, I want to set up I want to set up a corporate bank account for ABC Private Limited. And they just generally need like either one of the other persons to be present, and it's easy to kind of set up a bank account similarly to closing a bank account. So it does require a lot of high level of trust between the partners. This also means it is more riskier for individual partners. And we're going ahead with limited liability partnership. Similarly, as well to a limited partnership, um, the only main difference is that they do have regulations in terms of preparing like a board resolution. They do have they are not as strict. Sorry, they do have a bit more compliance involved in the company. This also means that if there is any thing or basically any statutory changes that you intend to do in a limited liability partnership, it does require a certain amount of meetings, and the fact that it is generally also quite cheaper. And in terms of cons, the in the event the company decides to change the managers and the partners in the company, or it's more of a merger and acquisition, it is very complicated to do a change in partnership. So this generally requires like legal, like lawyers involvement. And apart from that, there is no tax exemption. So it's still, and also to highlight, the corporate tax is, sorry, there is no corporate tax for partners. Of course, it will still be personal tax. So this is very important. I really want to highlight that corporate tax is much cheaper than personal tax. So it's actually one of the bigger cons when setting up a company or an entity that is not a private limited company. And my bread and butter, private limited company. So as you can see, in terms of the comparison of the couple slides previously, the pros for private limited company actually comes out so much more than cons. And this is really due to the fact that not many understand I would say the beauty of a private limited company. I'm just going to touch base line by line. The pros is that the company is essentially live until it is officially struck off, and the fact that the company cannot just go for striking off. It can be objected. It means that you don't, I wouldn't say you don't need a level of trust, but you would know that nobody is going to, your partners are not going to go behind your back and like strike off the company, because you can easily get that notification. So that actually, I would say, does help in terms of having that segregation, especially when you're new to the business. Separately from that, expansion is much easier when you decide to involve more investors. You want to go through seed rounds. It is seamless. You can even do a pitch deck, and somebody wants to invest in your company. They are not, I would say, like 100%. I wouldn't say liable, but they are not 100% involved in the company, due to the fact that private limited company does have different, I would say, voting rights. They have different, I would say something around along the lines like, they don't need to have like 100% control of the company. They can just pump in money and get dividends and such, examples like that. And the best part, it is much cheaper to be paying corporate tax than to pay personal tax. Besides that, imagine your company, you set up a private limited company just by yourself, and as a whole, you earn about $10,000 of revenue, which means profit minus income. So that is your net profit, right? In your net profit, sorry, yeah, I meant profit. When your net profit, 100% of the $10,000 goes to you without any taxation. So I feel like that's so much better than having to pay an additional, set giving yourself salary for like a sole proprietorship, limited partnership. You're giving yourself a salary, and when you give yourself a salary, this means that you need to pay personal tax. And that's it. I mean, apart from that, the fact that being you're not being rate, your tax corporate tax rate is not only 17%, but due to the fact that they have a lot of exemption schemes, you're only paying about 8.25% of tax at most. And the remaining profit is given to you as a shareholder, 0% taxable. I think I shouldn't I feel like it's just the best thing in the world. So yes. So sorry, I just lost my train of thoughts. Uh,
It's okay.
I'm so excited. Yes, private limited company is the way to go. And
Yes.
besides that, and the best part, of course, the government really encourages locals, generally entrepreneurs, to set up companies. And that's it. There are a lot of grants that it's available. Start Digital Grants. Start Digital is a partnership between OCBC and Osome as well, but generally Start Digital Grant, and also a PSG grant, which is a partnership with IMDA. That aside, the funds, rest assured, would be safe and protected, because nobody can just go into the corporate bank account and start withdrawing money, because it requires different segregation or different levels of authority, because the banks are generally more protective of a private limited company. And that aside, there are two, I would say, negative points, or negative points in setting up a company. In a company itself is that there are more statutory compliances. This means that yearly basis you may need to file corporate tax, you need to file ECI, which is short for estimated chargeable income. You may need to as well prepare an annual general meeting, and the fact that annual returns also has to be filed. There are two different jurisdictions that you would actually have to file with, and yes, there are more statutory compliance regulations for a private limited company, and it is a little bit more costly as compared to a sole proprietorship. Right, moving on. Private limited company, we have how to incorporate a company in Singapore. It's seamless. It literally can be done within the same day. It is as easy as one, two, three. So all you have to do, or generally, how we set up our companies for our clients, is that first and foremost, we would check the name availability in a BIS profile, so BIS file, which is the again online portal of ACRA, and thereafter we would generally, when you appoint a registered funding agent, it means like awesome, you let us handle it for you, and we would generally send all the pre-incorporation documents, and in the pre-incorporation documents, this is where a service provider, a company secretary, comes in handy, because not all documents are kind of easy to kind of prepare. Generally, what is required is like a form, a consent form. What's a constitution? If I'm not in this industry, I wouldn't know what's a constitution. So, leave it to an expert like us, and you can actually get your company incorporated in 4 steps.
Yay, I think that sounds amazing. Just I think in terms of setting up an incorporation of
Mhm.
the business that you have mentioned just now, I think one of the biggest difference Awesome has as compared to others is that it's 100% virtual. So yeah, you can set up your business from practically anywhere. So it's really helpful, even if you're a Singaporean and you're stuck overseas because of the pandemic and you want to start a business, it's still possible to do that, right, Anna?
It is so true. I just want to also touch on that. So, apart from the fact that doing it digital meaning going through your Chrome browser, Safari, and just going through Osome and like, okay, I'm done, I'm going to set up a company. Besides that, we do have an app that is available all for free, and you can even download the app, and your company management tool is all on the tip of your fingertips, basically. And let me go into details in terms of Awesome in a bit. I just will run through in terms of what you need to know when it comes to setting up a company, or basically the tips and the tricks to set up the company faster. First and foremost, having a company name, you need to kind of try and avoid trigger names, like bank, insurance, ministry. So Temasek, such names are trigger names, and this actually does not allow you to set up your company like immediately. So as long as your company is very unique, your company name is very unique, it should be done. It can be done within the same day itself. You can also get, or understand, like when it comes to business nature, right? When you set up a company as a law firm, such highly regulated business nature does need to be approved by another jurisdiction or another government agency besides ACRA. So as long as your company does not have much or high level of approval from different agencies, it would be done like relatively seamless. That Besides that, those are just one of the one of the 2 points that generally stops an incorporation to be done within the same day or within a couple of hours. But the rest of this 326 is generally more for compliance reason. Having a local address, having a local director is it's a must. Having a company secretary, and a minimum of just $1 of paid up capital. So yes, these are just a few theories or points for you to take note of when setting up a company in Singapore. Very easy. And what you need to know, and these are just basic compliance requirements. I don't want to bore you because these are very theoretical. But essentially, every private limited company does require to go through certain compliance filing, and it goes to two different government agencies, IRS and ACRA, and basically the annual general meeting is something that ACRA requires together with filing of annual returns, and then the ECI goes to IRS, and income tax returns obviously goes to IRS. So literally 4 things for you to do just to be able to benefit from the really attractive tax exemptions and pretty much the grants that Singapore government really encourages and pushes entrepreneurs to take on. And this is just an example of the overview. FYE is very important. From the FYE, that is how you determine the annual deadlines of a company. And this is just an example. For example, the financial year end of a company, ABC Private Limited, falls on the 31st of December. The ECI, which is short for Estimated Chargeable Income, comes 3 months after the financial year end. AGM comes 6 months after the financial year end. Annual returns no later than 7 months after the financial year end. And the only one that is not so does not really run is the filing of tax returns with IRS. And this is just one of the good things as well. It is no longer, or basically, it is your company would be exempted from audit as long as your company does not make a revenue of more than 10 million. You have less than 50 employees. Your assets is also less than 10 million. So this also means if your company is audited, it does means that you're going to pay a lot of hefty amounts to auditors. But as long as your company is a small, medium enterprise, it does not really need to be audited. So that's a good thing, right? But yeah, just FYI. And going ahead to why choose Awesome. And of course, the fact that I love the fact that I've been working at Awesome. It's very, I don't see a single paper in the office, probably to write letters and throw paper airplanes. But other than that, I do not see a single paper, not a single board resolution. And it really, really helps us to also not only help you guys to kind of do it more digitally, but also economically. I think we actually are making a big impact in sustainability. And like I mentioned, the fact that we have the application on our phone, literally, Awesome is convenience at your fingertips. You don't have to print any documents. Everything is electronically signed. The fact that we are also chat based. This means that you are able to chat with us at any time of the day, and the next available agent will be right with you to kind of help you with the items that you need. For example, you're looking for the business profile. Immediately you can either chat with someone like, hey, I need a business profile. Alternatively, we have like a full on dashboard, like a own CRM, your own CRM, to have a look, and your own file where you can download constitution, you can download the business profile, and all these are just at your fingertips. And the fact that we are very fast, we move at your speed as long as we're able to. And the fact that the fastest incorporation within 30 minutes was done by me. So I was very happy, and that it's recognized. And we also pride ourselves in one of the more transparent pricing in the really niche industry. And we have like a full one-stop solution for entrepreneurs, and basically made by entrepreneurs and for entrepreneurs. And just going through this again, we move at your speed. We are, yeah, this is one of our pride and joy as well. We are chat based, and there will never, or I would say less than often, where our chats are left hanging within 15 minutes. So we really take pride. I think the number actually increased. We really take pride in making sure that our responses to our clients, to our leads, are top notched. And yeah, we are one of the more cost effective service providers in Singapore. We are very transparent. We make sure that we are full transparently letting you know that, hey, this is how much it is, and letting you know that, in this scenario, in the special scenarios, then you may need to have a special add-ons, and all that is fully transparent to you. But going into more details in terms of why you choose Awesome, is the fact that we do have an ecosystem of services, of help for you. And these are a few of our proud partners. Aspire is an online digital bank, which promises a same day bank account opening. They are active. They are, born and raised in Singapore, and they recently have a USD feature, so it's more global. We have OCBC, a really really close partnership with us. Like I mentioned previously, the Start Digital program that we have is in conjunction with OCBC, and they actually support same day local bank account opening formalities as well. And we have for e-commerce entrepreneurs Shopline, and hot desking. Sometimes you just need to go to the office to kind of focus and shut off from the world. WeWork is also one of our official partners as well. And costs, going ahead with the costs, um, apart from our retail prices, you actually would benefit from an 8% discount on your first invoice with us. And all you have to do is quote Femtrepreneur, and you will actually get an additional 8% of service, 8% off on our service. And these are a few of our packages. We have just a standalone incorporation. However, we do recommend that, when setting up a company in Singapore, especially when you are relatively new to the whole setup, we do recommend that you take up our bestseller Rocketeer. This essentially is all you need It includes the incorporation, the official corporate secretary, what is required, advisory. It also includes accounting, taxation, and bookkeeping. And of course, at a later point, once you kind of see how it works when it comes to accounting, how is ECI being filed, and you're able to identify, okay, these are my deadlines. Then of course you can choose to withdraw from Kickstarter, or sorry, Rocketeer, and downgrade to a more simple solution with us. So of course, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm just saying that the quote on the slide is incorrect. The
Mhm.
correct one, I've already dropped it inside the
Ah, okay.
chat. It's quote fempreneur, not femtrepreneur. So yeah, that was
Okay.
yeah, fempreneur. No problems. So that's the code. We've already dropped it inside the area. So if you want to get access to the first 8% off from your incorporation, you can just code fempreneur. We'll also be dropping a link on how you can access this special code directly as well right after this session. I think right now we have one question that came up.
Yes.
Is it okay to address this right now, Anna?
All right. So if I just read out, I don't need to pay personal tax income as I have 4 children. If I start a company as a private limited, will I lose my working mom tax relief? Well, there is. Okay, I'm frankly not sure because I'm generally more involved in the company's tax related formalities and advisory. But Yasmin, if you don't mind, would you care to share your email address so I can actually reach out to you immediately after this?
All right, Yasmin. So you can reach out to us after this. You can just let me
Mm-hmm.
know as well that you want to reach out, and then we can connect you with Anna to help you address this. All right. Okay, so I think we have a couple more questions. The
Yes,
questions are more related to grants. So I think grants is definitely something that a lot of businesses wants to find out more about. So when
correct.
you said grants for private limited, does that mean as a sole proprietor, it's not as accessible?
Sole proprietorship okay, it really depends on the specific grant that you're looking at, but generally a sole proprietor do not get a lot of grants. It's usually given to private limited companies.
Mm. So there you go. Another reason why you should move over to private limited. Yeah. Besides the tax, of course, the tax breaks, and there are a lot of things that are very helpful that Anna has shared with us earlier today on private limited. All right. So I'm just gonna quickly just check our platforms and see if there are any additional questions. Right. So before this session, we had one more question, which is in terms of setting up a private limited versus setting up maybe a sole proprietorship. Both also has its pros and it has some cons. Okay. So we at this juncture, with your excitement level, you've also established that private limited is the way to go for a lot of businesses. So the question that was asked is that do companies really need to have a company bank account in order for them to run their operations? Can they use their
That's
personal account?
That's
Yeah.
a really good question. It is not a mandate in the Companies Act. However, it is best recommended to set up a corporate bank account, especially when you have a private limited company. This is because when you set up a company, and the fact that companies are generally and always separate from the shareholders, and with that theory, if you have your corporate bank account and your personal account in the same bank account, it's going to be very hard to identify which is actually your own salary, your own your own expenses. Whereas if it's separate, then it's easier to identify, okay, this is how much net my company is making, and so forth. So yes, it's a recommendation.
Yes, definitely. So I think at the end of the day, if you want to establish a business, you got to do it the right way. And I think Awesome has an awesome job in making this happen, of course. To create and establish a business in Singapore is not that difficult. So I think I would say that in maybe even in Southeast Asia, even that Singapore is one of the easiest places for you to establish a business. Yeah, I think definitely with your consultation expertise, you might have heard a lot of people say that as well, right? Singapore is one of the easier places for you to establish a business in Southeast Asia. So that being said, I do want to share a little bit about my experience working with Awesome as well. So I've established both my companies using Awesome services. So we incorporated separately on our own because we've been around for 6 years already. So that's like pre awesome years, right? Before you guys were established. I honestly would have wished you were there when I established my first business so that we didn't have to go through, the hassle of understanding what incorporation is all about. So that was definitely a much needed service. We now work together with Awesome for the corporate secretarial services as well as accounting services. So I can definitely vouch for their service. Very on point, very on time, and like what Anna has said as well, they always take time to respond. So sometimes me being a business owner, sometimes we work outside of conventional office hours. I do get replies sometimes from the chat so letting us know that, hey, someone will attend to you tomorrow in the morning, perhaps. So that's definitely something that I can vouch for in terms of the service that Awesome has to offer. All right. So let's see if there's any other questions. Before that, yeah, Anna, like maybe you can add a little bit or two about what makes or some stories that you have had in your work as a consultant.
Well, on a personal basis, I actually had the experience or the honor of serving one of the I would say he's a serial entrepreneur, and when he was introduced, he was a bit I would say reluctant to go ahead with Awesome, just due to the fact that he has been a serial entrepreneur in different jurisdiction, not in Singapore, and to him having to sign constitution, such important documents, an annual general meeting, a board resolution, all electronically is just so foreign to him. So of course, I took the time to share with him a lot of articles from the Companies Act, articles from the electronically signed act in Singapore, and explain to him that it's perfectly legal, and he actually gave a really really good pat in our back, in my back, saying that he has incorporated companies in Sweden and Italy and Egypt, if I'm not mistaken, and he did mention that Awesome, due to the fact that it's all digital, it really eases him of his compliance headaches, and literally like he would be able to just offload everything, and we are able to kind of take it on, um, and he was really happy essentially. um,
That's
yeah.
great.
Yeah, he's really nice guy.
I think you have had great experience in this area. So if you do have any, I mean, the audience is still watching with us and tuning in. If you have any additional questions that you would like to ask, just drop them inside the comments and we will address them during this session. I think we probably have another like 5-10 minutes or so before we wrap up this session, this amazing and insightful session about incorporation in Singapore. So I think I want to ask you a question that may be something that the audience is asking, but they didn't want to ask yet. So when we talk about the Companies Act and having to form up your own legislation, right? So what are some of the things that you guys do? Do you do like customization, or is it like a standard document that people would have to follow?
Okay, that's a really great question. So, for us as a company secretary, as long as I would say a registered filing agent working licensed by ACRA, if we are not basically not licensed to prepare like a customized document. However, when it comes to board resolutions, when it comes to more statutory side of an entity, then that would be one of our duties to ensure that we are preparing the right documents. So to give an example, or I would say in lack of better words, if you would like to prepare like a contract, you want to prepare an agreement, you want to prepare essentially a new constitution, this requires a lawyer to help you to prepare. However, standard annual general meeting, standard statutory documents like a change in director, allotment of new shares. These are more statutory side of a company in which a company secretary then steps in to help out.
Okay, so that's really a great answer. I think this helps those who are starting out and maybe thinking that they need to have a special set of their own bylaws in their organization so that partners maybe have their own fair share of responsibilities. I believe they can go outside of Awesome to find their own legal advisors to work on that and then bring the document back over to you to incorporate. Is that right?
I just a correction on my end.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to a constitution, for example, a bylaw, like you mentioned, generally, as long as there isn't a special, like a special note or a special clause. For an example, if you set up a company and all of your shareholders are ordinary shareholders, than a standard constitution in which that Awesome can help prepare. However, if you have ESOP, if you have a preference share, if you have a different classification of shares, then yes, it does require lawyers' assistance to prepare them. But generally, if it's a standard one, not much customization required, that will be a company secretary's duty to prepare for you.
Okay, all right. So I think that's really helpful because I do recall my time interacting with my community members. They are always afraid of this constitution, like the legal side of things. So it prevents them from setting up the private limited side. So now that we know Awesome can do the work of setting up a standard constitution for companies, I think this would definitely lift off a heavy burden that the community members are actually going through before they start their own private limited. All right, seems like we have another question over here. So, does Awesome have sessions to teach those who want to start a business on how to keep proper accounting for Singapore?
We actually had a session recently about e-commerce accounting, but deep diving in terms of how to keep a proper accounting itself. Um, it does require a professional a professional person to be able to prepare an accounts,
Mm.
but generally, if you engage an accounting service with us, we actually are able to go through with you like an onboarding call and onboarding formality in which would help you to kind of understand the pros, or kind of understand like, okay, I should indicate this as my expense and not like my salary, some sort of a different need, or different, I would say, accounting theory, and that does come together and in conjunction with our accounting services.
Yes, so take up the accounting services, and I think before you actually do that, do explore the Start Digital grant because that's something that I think will definitely help you to kickstart and have that initial starting for you to establish this accounting package together with Awesome. Yeah, I'm trying to pronounce your name like correctly. Okay, so I think we have one more question. If we open up sole proprietorship, can we change to private limited later?
Lovely question, Yasmin. Yes, you can, but it's a little bit complicated. But it's seamless, but a little bit complicated, just a little bit. Why I say that is because first and foremost, you cannot have two um companies, entities or companies set up simultaneously. It has to be, sorry, simultaneously. You cannot have it both at the same time. You need to have it either one or the other. With that, the general theory, or the way to go when it comes to setting up a sole proprietorship and then turning it into a private limited is, first and foremost, you would need to cease your sole proprietorship. This means if there is any licensing, what you can do is, before you cease your sole proprietorship, generally you do need to have an appeal of the same company name, and on the basis of a convert of sole proprietorship to private limited company. That being said, it is generally shutting off sole proprietorship and moving all of the license into private limited company. And once the company has been set up, and then officially all the licensing will then be moved. So cease and then open.
Mm. All right, so it does sound like a complex process, and I believe that when you cease and you open, if you have set up your sole proprietorship, let's say 2016, and then today 2021, you decide I want to open up a private limited, your history of 2016 would be gone, and you start fresh from 2021 onwards, like in a way, like because your establishment is from this point onwards as a private limited. Like, yeah, I think
Essentially,
that's also something.
yes.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
essentially, okay, in a way, yes, wherein all of your business accounts would be then closed down to be able for you to set up that private limited company. So essentially, also just to let you know, when you cease a business, it is legally you're legally not allowed to throw away any records for 5 years. So you do need to kind of keep that records not only for your own reference, but also in terms of the Companies Act. So, but take it as starting afresh, where when you set up your own private limited company, you do need to set up your own, a separate corporate bank account, because generally SPs are set up in a personal account. So, in a way, yes, it's going to be like a fresh new company.
All right, great. I think that wraps up all the questions. We have had a really, really insightful session with you today, and I think it's very fun to hear your excitement in being this, this a specialist that can help businesses establish their and incorporate their businesses in Singapore. So that's really, really nice. Thank you so much, Anna, for being here. So for our listeners who want to get in touch with you, how can they do so?
Yes. So you can always drop us a line basically on a web base, in which that you have our chat based interface, where you can just drop a line and say, hey, I've been here. You can even quote, and everybody knows that, okay, 8%. But other than that, I will share, can I share my email address here, or
Um,
any?
yeah, you can
Yeah.
drop it. If you're comfortable, you can just drop it inside the comments areas, and they will be able to see this as well.
Okay, I am not able to
Oh,
type in.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you can drop me a private chat, and then I'll drop in the information later on.
No
Yeah.
problem.
So it.
So I am anna.nari at osome.com. That is anna.nari at awesome.com.
All right, so I'll just put it up inside the comments. All right, so if you want to reach out to Anna, you can find her at anna.nari@awesome.com. So that wraps up today's session. We've got a really, really deep understanding of the various types of incorporation. Company structures that you can choose in Singapore. And I think from her level of excitement by now, you should know private limited is the way to go. Yes. That's okay. That's okay. Completely fine because I think this is true as well. When I started as a sole prop, so I think being a sole proprietor, a lot of the time my frustration lies in renewing the business. So sometimes when you miss that renewal, then it completely just you can't do anything. You can't run the business, and you have to pay your CPF. There's a lot of things that you have to think about that's kind of like frustrating. But when you move over to become a private limited, you don't have to pay renewal fee because it's one time payment for you to register your business, and that's also the doors of opportunities kind of like open up for you because grants is accessible for companies with private limited. And then of course you have access to a lot of other structures as well, like proper accounting for banks, and then there's a lot more opportunities out there available for you. So I think that's definitely the way to go for a lot of businesses who are thinking of starting up. I would say that if you want to start up a private limited, you heard just now from Anna, the paid up capital can be as low as $1. So you don't have to have like a yeah. So $1 is a great start. Yeah. All right. So before we end, I would just like to share that if you already received an email from us, you would know that we have just dropped the Art of Firing Your Boss ebook. So you can now access it right now. So go on over to links.fempreneur.co/ebook for you to access the Art of Firing Your Boss ebook today. All right, so we've had a great, great, great session with Anna. Thank you so much for making time here. If you have any last bits of wisdom that you would like to share with our women entrepreneurs.
Thank you, Huda, again for having me. I just have one piece of advice. do not hesitate to just ask and ask and ask. You have consultants all available for you, even if it's not to Awesome. There are other service providers who will be able to kind of help you. But at the end of the day, Awesome is the best. It is the best. That's why I've been here for 3 years. But yes, do not hesitate to reach out to me. I always welcome questions and I love questions. So it is very normal to kind of have doubts and questions, like essentially, objections to kind of set up your own company. But at the end of the day, it is, you reap your own benefits. So
Mhm.
do not hesitate to reach out to me. Do not hesitate to reach out to me, and I hope to speak to you guys again soon.
All right. Thank you so much, Anna. All right. So, with that, remember to keep learning and keep believing in yourself because the world needs an inspiration just like you. Stay fearless, and I'll see you soon. Bye.